Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we are going to circle back to the king of crazy states, and of course that is California. We're going to have to talk about Assembly Bill 1127, the Glock ban, which has now passed out of the Assembly and the Senate and is heading to Governor Newsom's desk for signature. But the story we want to tell is not how stupid this law is, but rather the very nefarious scheme that went into creating this law, because it goes back a number of years and it really goes to show you just how evil the civilian disarmament movement really is. So today, let's spend a few minutes, let's go back all through it, and let's talk about the state that's about to ban Glocks. Okay, America, we head back out to the king of crazies again today, California, for Assembly Bill 1127. Now, the inspiration for this story comes from one of my favorite Second Amendment contributors. Of course, that is Mr. Costas Moros over there at the Second Amendment Foundation. And I want you to know that he actually said that credit for a lot of the information that he disseminated actually came from a gentleman named Vince over at Fixing Cali. Good luck fixing Cali there, Vince. But we're going to be talking about the passage of Assembly Bill 1127. Kind of went unnoticed. There's a lot of other news events. It now heads to Governor Newsom's desk. If signed into law, would ban the sale of all Glock handguns and any Glock clones. So we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of models of handguns. So let's go back in our time machine and ask ourselves, how did we get here? Well, one of the chief sponsors of the bill was Assemblyman Jesse Gabriel, who cited a mass shooting that took place in 2022, just a few blocks from the state capitol there in Sacramento, in which one of the many firearms that were used in this shooting was equipped with a Glock switch. When Moms Demand Action also put in their support behind Assembly Bill 1127, they too cited to the exact same shooting. Now, as I stated earlier, there were several firearms that were used in this gang-related shooting. However, the one converted pistol was used by a gentleman named Smiley Allen Martin. Now, again, as I mentioned, the mass shooting took place in 2022, but just 4 years earlier, Smiley Allen Martin had been convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison for felony domestic violence. Okay, so that's in 2018. Now, when I saw that, I was like, dang, 10 years for domestic violence. What did he do? Well, the allegations were as he broke into a home, he beat a woman within inches of her life, then shoved her in a car, drove her to a park, and assaulted her more, beating her so bad that some witnesses could not even recognize who the woman was. So in 2018, Smiley Martin gets sentenced to 10 years in prison, but less than 4 years later, and obviously prior to this shooting in Sacramento in 2022, Smiley Martin is released from prison. How do you say? Well, that's right, California. You all passed Proposition 57. Now, I want you to know that even though Mr. Martin was released in 2022, just 1 year earlier, the CDCR had actually found that Mr. Martin posed such a threat to community safety that he could not be released. But you see, the way Prop 57 works is that once you accumulate enough points, well, you're released. And oh, by the way, when you're released for accumulating points under Prop 57, the victim's not even notified that you're being released from custody. So that we're clear then, the individual who used the unlawful converted Glock pistol in that mass shooting in Sacramento was Smiley Allen Martin, a convicted felon who should have still been in prison, and certainly should have never been in possession of any firearm or ammunition. And since nobody's allowed to be in possession of a Glock switch or use it, we have multiple layers of illegality, of course, leading up to then shooting a bunch of people, which is also illegal. The whole reason that Smiley Allen Martin was even there, though, was because of California Prop 57. So we can agree that Prop 57 is a pretty big issue here and one of the catalysts to create this entire disaster. Well, let's go back in our time machine a little further, because when Jerry Brown was governor of California, Gavin Newsom was the lieutenant governor and was a vehement supporter of Prop 57. Oh, and then once it was implemented and people began to realize, hey, the critics are right, we are actually letting a bunch of very dangerous, violent people back out onto the streets, Governor Newsom then vehemently opposed efforts to roll it back both in 2020 and again in 2024. So where's Smiley Allen Martin today? Is he about to be released again under Prop 57? No, unfortunately, Mr. Martin passed away last year while incarcerated from a methadone overdose. But in conclusion, and this is almost akin to what we're seeing here right now nationwide, where we have people on the left commit political violence and then want to use those acts of violence to push for gun control. What we have here in California, and this goes to show you just how evil the civilian disarmament move can be, is the following. We passed Proposition 57. It allows people like Smiley Allen Martin to get out of prison early, who then turns around and uses an unlawful firearm with an unlawful attachment in an unlawful way to commit horrific acts of violence. Once the acts of violence are committed, of course, then legislators step in and use that as the catalyst to pass gun laws to disarm who? That's right, the lawful and responsible California resident. And you now sit on the precipice of having America's most popular handgun banned in its entirety from the state of California. All right, now this all heads to the governor's desk, where he's got some tough decisions to make. Obviously, he wants to sign it. There's never been a piece of gun control legislation that he doesn't absolutely positively adore. But he also has aspirations for higher office and is trying to play as if he is a moderate. Certainly anybody who was moderate would not sign this, but right now, California, you sit on the precipice of having America's largest gun manufacturer banned from your state in its entirety. Okay, it's Assembly Bill 1127, but I want you to really focus on all the absolutely evil and sinister efforts that went into place to allow this piece of legislation to come to fruition. And candidly, California, they made your communities more dangerous so that they could pass this law. Listen, if you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, and in California, that's next to nothing. You should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now, but if you don't, that's okay. Down there in the description box, if you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, click on that link and tell us all about it. If you want to subscribe to the monthly newsletter, the information on that is down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's everyone remember that part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.
First individual on call, and for whatever reason, if that goes through, we have actually 3 layers. So we have another and another. So if it continues to ring, it goes from one phone to the next to the next. So we're betting on our chances. The highly compensated team that we have is going to take that phone call. And then from there, they have that privilege, right? They have the attorney-client privilege and that right to share with them, our attorneys, of what just took place. We have a nationwide team of attorneys that's going to be able to reach out to our Arizona attorney to get them on the horn immediately. You know, we've had cases all over the country. You're not truly prepared unless you have right to bear back you. You will always get an attorney-answered hotline, so you will always have a confidential phone call. There are no cap limits for either civil or criminal defense. This covers all forms of self-defense. So from a fist to a firearm, from a fat lip to a dead body, you are covered, and you will have some of the nation's most passionate 2A attorneys in your corner fighting for you. And right now, if you visit my friends at protectwithbear.com and you use the promo code WGL, you will receive 10% off. Listen, you need to protect yourself so that you can protect them. Visit my good friends at protectwithbear.com.